Hello, professionals. My name is Rico Aladdin, and I am the founder of Professional Lunch. Today, we have another great guest with us. It's the president of MSUM, the 12th president of MSUM. But before we start the conversation, I have a favor to ask you. If you have not followed Professional Lunch yet, I kindly ask you to do that because we are bringing a lot of big names on the podcast. You don't want to miss some of their knowledge, their advice they are giving you. So please follow Professional Lunch on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Welcome to the show, President Downs.
Oh, thank you, Rico. It's great to be here.
Wonderful.
Great to meet with a dragon.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Please tell the Professional Lunch audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, I went to high school in San Diego and then college in Sacramento to a state university. I'm a state university product. When I work at a state university, it feels like home to me.
Okay.
So my goal has always been, how do I help people? The higher education businesses, how do you help people? So when I was a faculty member at Cal State Los Angeles, it was, how do I help the students? They were working students. A lot of them work full time. The average undergraduate student age was 28. Mm-hmm. So they were really gritty students, a lot like the Moorhead students. But I always looked at it as, how do I help them through, figuring out their way forward. If they have any learning challenges, that's fine. Well, let's just attack them head on and get through that, and then figure out what's next in their lives as they went from one degree to the next. So for me, the business of education, it's become kind of an industry. Mm-hmm. How do we do this with a sense of compassion and helping is the key. And then each student, I call it, is a case study. Mm-hmm. They have a story, they have a history, they have strengths, they have challenges. So how do we help facilitate all that so when they get done with that degree that they're working on, they're ready for their next step in life?
Wonderful. I love that very much because this is, I always find myself repeating why we are having Professional Lunch, using my story, how I have been able to learn from successful professionals such as yourself. I want to make this a platform where young professionals can learn, high school students, college students can learn from accomplished professionals such as yourself. And talking about, student success today is really a good topic for us because this is what we are about. And I like the fact that you focus on helping people. And I really like that. And so, almost a year on the job now and in the community. So what has been your most interesting thing, both on campus and in the community, that you've learned?
Well, what I've really learned is that the area is a region, and there's, two sides of the river. Mm-hmm. But as a region, it sees itself as having a lot of partnerships on either side of the river because we're trying to build up the region. So that's something I really like. Minnesota State Moorhead is a regional university. Mm-hmm. So it's called a Regional Comprehensive University. So we offer 2-year degrees, 4-year degrees, master's degrees, and we have a doctorate. Mm-hmm. So how does that fit in the landscape of this region? What do we contribute to the region? Well, we bring a lot of students in and we help them down their path, and then we put them into the job market. Yeah. Well, so that makes us this regional partner for workforce development.
Yes.
Which makes us a regional partner for economic development.
Yes.
So every one of the regional assets, all the K-12 regional assets, all the colleges and universities regional assets, and how do we collectively raise up our region as even being more viable economically from a stance of strong communities, strong infrastructure, communities of people that see the same way forward as, hey, let's make this place even better. That's what I say all the time about Moorhead. Mm-hmm. How do we be even better?
Wonderful. I love that. How do we make it even better? Yeah. So, today we'll be talking about Students Initiative for Student Success, and we will focus on 3 areas: general success, personal, professional developments, and well-being, and also career preparation, because these are 3 areas I think that kind of highlight that. So when it comes to student success, how does the university define student success?
Well, I kind of alluded to it earlier. Each student's a case study. Mm-hmm. So we look at each student and say, how do we position that student for success? Some students come in and they do math, no problem. Others, not so much.
Yeah.
Others are great writers, others not so much. And so how do we position them for success? So things that we're doing, we're moving more and more of the resources into this resource and learning support student success center. And a big part of it right now is moving into the library. We moved some of it, and we're going to continue to move more assets into the library. And these are support infrastructures, such as the writing center. So just by moving some of these resources into the library, which, libraries used to be quiet space. Shh, be quiet. We're in here to listen and read and not make a lot of noise. Yeah. Well, now, big spaces in libraries are very much communal spaces where people come and gather and talk and share ideas, and there's workrooms, and there's areas where students are expected to make noise. So our first floor of our library is that.
Yeah.
So by moving these resources into the library, the usage of these resources, such as the writing center, went up over 20%.
Wow.
Just because the students say, oh, I know where that is. I'll just run into the library, get some help with my paper, and then go to class.
Yeah.
So because of the centrality of the location and the way it's being designed and the staffing, they're all doing a great job. The usage is going up. So the freshman year, this past year, students that persisted, and that means they showed up in the spring semester from the fall semester, went up 5%. That's big.
Yes.
So that means our retention number is going to go up. And we have to do that every year because you want more and more students to come back the second year.
Yeah.
And then if you finish the second year, what should you do? You should finish your degree.
Yes.
You're halfway there. So it's the mindset of the student. So it's working on those things all the time and trying to figure out how do we best serve our students. So that student success piece, it's very intricate and it's case by case, but we're constantly working on building the infrastructure so we're there for the students and whatever they need.
Wow, wonderful. I'm glad you mentioned student retention because that's one of my questions. So how does the university track and improve that? You kind of touch on the improvement part. How does the university track and improve the retention rates?
Well, you look at how well they're doing in each class, and then you also look at some classes. And some classes have a higher rate of withdrawals or grades below C. So you can look at that and say, well, it seems like there's a demand because we have a higher percentage of students that enroll in that class that have a less than positive experience. And what's the reason for that? Well, it might be that the students, they saw it as a barrier and they psychologically just stopped going. Well, we got to get them to not do that. And if they do that, we'll get them to withdraw from the class before you get a final grade that's less than optimal.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of coaching. Let's be real. You're not doing so well. Okay, what are we going to do? If it's too late in the semester, we might withdraw you. If it's real early in the semester, we're going to ask you to come to tutoring maybe every day, just incrementally to learn and attack that issue and then build that sense of confidence as you get the next quiz back. And it's like, wait a minute, I got a C on that quiz. Before I was getting less than C's. Yeah. So maybe I could get a B in this class, or maybe I'm going to start getting B's and it offsets the other grades, and I'm going to get a C, and I can check that box.
Yes.
So it's about showing them the way forward. Think of it this way. A lot of the world now is talking about resilience. So resilience is really an internal thing. You have to look at it and say, well, that's not working so well. Yeah. And then what do I need to do to have a different outcome? So that's a mindset. So teaching students that is a life skill. It's not just how to get through math or how to get through science or how to get, a better grade on my writing. It's teaching them how to attack the issue strategically, change the behavior, and then become something different that they aspire to, but with intent. And then that set of experiences in college transforms right into their career and their lives.
Wonderful.
You teach them resilience.
Wonderful. So, in college, a lot of the students sometimes they are on their own for the first time, right? They just left their parents' house and stuff like that. So one question that I like to ask people, university personnel, is about initiatives that exist to support students' personal, physical health and their wellness. So how would you answer that?
Physical health, you want students to have a balanced life. I'm not a video gamer, If you are, that's fine.
Yeah.
But you should probably move. All the physiological studies show that you're going to have a better, healthier life physically if you just get up and move. And it doesn't mean you have to go to the weight room and lift 1,000 pounds. Just go for a walk.
Yeah.
It's really simple. So get a friend, go for a walk. And if it's cold out, well, then wear a hat and a coat. But get out and move. And that the psychology of that is activity actually, they say scientifically, releases endorphins. That it gives you a healthier mind and a healthier outlook on life. So we have the Rec and Wellness Center. And as a student, you probably went there. So go to the Rec and Wellness Center, go do intramurals, do something active, go for a walk, do something that kind of engages yourself physically. And that will help you because then all the studies show that it helps with attention spans. You get better rest because maybe you were tired, so you slept better.
Yeah.
It's just the realities of all the things they told us, growing up.
Yeah.
Eat good food, get activity, get rest, stay healthy, and that helps you in your performance doing anything, whether it's a class or a job. If you're physically and mentally balanced, you're going to be a better place for success.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned balance. Let me follow up on that for a little bit. Work-life balance, does that mean something to you? Is that
Work-life balance is a goal.
Yeah.
It's easy to work all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you have a laptop, if you have an iPad, if you have a cell phone, everything now is accessible. It's right there.
Yeah.
I mean, I could pull my phone out right now and I could sign 3 documents and review 5 others in the next 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Because it's with you. It's portable. So the good news is portable. The bad news is it's always accessible, so you really aren't disengaged from work. So you have to really design life to actually disengage. Go for a walk and not look at your phone.
Yeah. Okay.
It's okay. Go on vacation and not be doing 20 emails a day because it's healthier if you actually create that work-life balance. So it's about patterns. So when students are in school, it's kind of getting them in the pattern of this is when I get up, I have breakfast, and I do this, and so they have a routine. So routine builds structure, which then gives you the reality of, well, it's between 6 and 8. I'm going to have dinner. I'm going to hang out with my friends. I might play, some, video game or pool or whatever with them, ping pong. And just kind of let my brain rest. Yeah. So the work-life balance is really a good thing to pursue.
Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up question because what we are saying here, we want the student to see it in their eyes, right? Just because they are in school, but some of them work full-time or part-time, and then they have school. So sometimes it's kind of hard. Do you have like maybe a 1 to 3 things that they can do to, you kind of talked about that, but they can do to really engage in balancing those, the work and the school and their extracurricular activities?
Yeah, well, if they have an interest in a club or an organization, that's a great thing. Yeah. They may be doing some work in the club, but let's say they go out in the community, something that we want to propose all the time, and we have thousands of hours our students spend in the community on community engagement, like a service learning project. But let's say you're in the service learning project, you're not doing a paper, you're not reading, but you're with your colleagues and you're engaged in some project. Maybe you're going over and painting a house, or you're volunteering at a school, you're coaching, or you're teaching kids how to play the violin. Whatever it is, it's just something that's different. So when you're a college student, what I tell college students all the time, especially when I taught, go to stuff. Go to a lecture, watch a movie, go to a play, go see a sporting event, just go. And especially go if it's something you know nothing about, or maybe it's something you think that you don't like. Because if you don't experience it, maybe it's just a perception, and it may be a misperception. Maybe you're gonna turn out to love the symphony.
Yes.
You just don't know. But just experience as much as you can in college, and then it gives you a sense about the world. And then you're really kind of a liberal arts person. You're learn to see the world and see all the facets of the world. That's what college should be about. If there's a lecture and you think immediately, I don't think I want to go listen to that, go listen to that. And maybe you're going to feel uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
That's okay. Then you can put it into a category, and then you can tell me why you don't agree with that or why it's not something that interests you. And the person sitting next to you might be just the happiest person in the world because they're there.
Yes.
Maybe talk to them and say, so what did you get out of the play, or what did you get out of the lecture?
Yeah.
And you might learn something from the person sitting right next to you.
Wonderful. You know, I'm so glad you mentioned that. Experience College, and we conduct a survey asking people one question: how can students make the most out of college? You know, a little under 300 people now, because it's part of our research for the professional lunch book. And so we asked the question: how can students make the most out of college? And I'm gonna ask you that question, but because you mentioned Experience College, it was part of the answers, in the sense like you have to get involved. That was our number one answers.
Absolutely.
Get involved, regardless of what it is, whether it's in the community, whether it's in clubs, whether in different music, different plays or things like that. You get involved because when you first start, you don't really know what you like and what you don't like.
Right.
The discomfort that you feel, you don't want to go see something, might be the thing that turns out to be an exceptional thing for you, right?
Yeah.
So I go ahead. You were about to say something.
I mean, no, we have students that show up, and student athletes, for example, and they're not going to play in college because the little known statistic is that only 7% of high school athletes actually compete in college. That's not very many.
Yeah.
But the reality is literally the game changes. The competition is the best of the best, and that's the 7%. Well, so you come to college and, but I'd like to be active. Okay, so you go to our Rec and Wellness Center and you get on the treadmill and you take yoga or, spin class, whatever it is. That's great. But then you meet somebody in, say, your science class who says, oh, you played this sport? You should come out for rugby. Rugby? What's that? Well, just come out and watch the game.
Yeah.
And they come out and go, wow, that looks like fun. And then I said, well, why don't you come to practice? Okay, now I'm coming to practice. And now all of a sudden, so you want to be a member of the team?
Yeah.
And now they're connected.
Yes.
They're connected with a group of people that are having fun, they're competing, and, enjoying college. It's a dimension of college they hadn't planned on. They might take a class in media, and all of a sudden they're in the film club. Wow, I used to like to go to the movies, but now I'm in the film club. You just don't know.
Yeah.
There's so much out there on every college campus, and at the Moorhead campus, I try to go to as many events as I can. It's not possible. And I've had students invite me to an art show, which I really wanted to be there, but I was in St. Paul for a meeting. And I had to text these students back, I am so sorry.
Yeah.
I would love to be there tonight to see you present your art.
Yeah.
But I'm not in town.
Yeah.
But the fact is, I've learned over the years, there's so much richness in a university. Just try and soak it in.
Yes.
And it's almost like accidental learning.
A lot of resources.
Yeah.
Wonderful. What about the non-traditional students? How does the university address the unique needs of non-traditional students?
Non-traditional students, as I mentioned earlier, I taught at Cal State Los Angeles, and the average age undergraduate was 28.
Yeah.
So the first year I taught, I had a student in class that was 13, and a woman in class that was 70.
Whoa.
In the same class. Yeah.
Look at the gap there.
So they used to have some very interesting conversations, both very bright, but approaching the world and their viewpoints from different perspectives.
Yes.
One was a grandmother, and the other one was a pretty bright student that actually finished her doctorate by the time she was 21.
Oh, wow.
So, but balancing all that. So when I look at adult students, we have to do the best we can, which we're constantly doing in terms of scheduling classes and making sure that they have access to the resources that they need, because they may be on an alternate schedule. They may need nights and weekends classes, or they might have more classes that need to be online. So we have to figure out, this is part of our student population, and how do we help them? The non-traditional student, I used to have a lot of students that would show up and say, well, I didn't graduate from high school, and then I went and got my GED, and then I went to a 2-year school and got that 2-year degree, and now I'm here at the university. It's like, wow, what a journey.
Yes.
You know, you thought, I hate learning, and here you are getting your bachelor's degree at age 32.
Mm-hmm.
There's other people that didn't go right into college. A great example is the military. And they decided, nope, I'm going in the military. And that was a great experience for them in their lifetime. It helped them mature and grow and have a sense of that purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And then they looked up and said, I think I want to get a degree. Those students, the non-traditional students, in my opinion and in my experience, they usually set the curve because they're there for a reason. Nobody's telling them to go to school. They're voracious learners, and they usually set the curve in the class.
Yes.
So I love working with non-traditional students. We've been investing a huge amount, and we got a couple of grants to support veterans because veterans have served our country, and they've gone and done all these things in the world, and then they realize, you know, I think now that at this point in my life, I want to circle back and pick up a degree or two. Well, how do we support them? Well, we have a resource center, we have grants, and we're trying every way possible to support them as much as we can because they are non-traditional, and maybe it's been a while since they took a math class. Yeah. Maybe it's been a while since they wrote an essay. So again, those learning resources are real important to retool them back into that collegiate level of learning. It's just a process. A lot of times it takes very little effort, and they snap right into mode.
Yep.
And they set the curve. So it's a lot of fun to have non-traditional students. They enrich the class.
Wow. I must say that I was one non-traditional student myself because I did my bachelor's in my late 30s. So it really, it was a little discomfortable at first, but uncomfortable at first, but it's, you know, I managed to navigate that, which is very cool.
Well, for me, the last 3 years of college for me, I worked full-time, went to school full-time.
Yeah.
So I missed, for example, I was supposed to join the debate team, and then that didn't happen. And it didn't happen because I went to class late till 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night, having worked from 9 o'clock till 4:30.
Wow.
So I worked in a bank, so banker's hours. So I'd take class at 7:30 in the morning and then 2 to 3 nights a week till 10 o'clock at night. And so my weekends, that Friday night and Saturday, I might, back to the wellness, I might take off and just go to a football game, go somewhere. Like it was in Northern California, might end up over in San Francisco at an art museum.
Yeah.
Taking that break. But Saturday night and Sunday, quite often, I was writing my papers that were due the following week.
Wonderful.
So I was a non-traditional student myself. It didn't look like it, but I really was. I'd get on my motorcycle, ride to campus with a tie on, because as soon as class was out, I was riding it back across the way, and I had to walk in the building and be a bank teller.
Wow.
Yeah, so I had to look like I was a working professional while I was a student. You know, they were great years.
Yeah.
I was not the least bit bored.
Yeah. Oh man, this is what I love about doing professional lunch. You know, having the conversation with people who are successful. I mean, we look at the success now, but when we think about the journey, we look back things that we may not like that much back then, but we laugh about them now, right? Yeah. I go to school full time and work full time, both for my bachelor's and my master's. So I can relate to anyone who said that it was really hard, but looking back, the journey was what it was. It was fun. You had some challenges, but it was fun too. So
well, it gives you ownership.
Yeah.
So you own your degrees because you worked your way through. You ground right through it.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was in my doctoral program, I had 3 jobs.
Wow.
Yeah, I was a half-time graduate assistant. I worked for the athletic department running a tutoring center, and I was the maintenance and repair guy for my apartment complex.
Wow.
So I could just, my day was, depending on what time it was, depending on what I was doing.
You are a different person each time.
Yeah, I was, I came in, when I was working in the apartment complex, I'd be in there fixing somebody's plugged up toilet.
Oh my God.
And they would look at me, and I had a baseball hat and jeans, and then someone would say, "So what do you do?" "Well, I'm working on my PhD." "What?" The guy that's finishing his PhD is fixing my toilet? Well, yeah. You just got to do what you got to do.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I love that.
Okay.
And you are, you say something here that I say a lot, being intentional about things. When you go to school in this, the age that I went to school myself, I felt like, nobody had to tell me to do my homework. Nobody had to tell me to do this thing.
Right.
I had to make the most out of resources and opportunities when I go to college, and I think that was a good point right there.
Yeah. I was talking to the orientation students this morning, and I said, here's what's going to happen. You're going to get here, and you're going to start taking some classes, and then you'll suddenly realize that's what I'm passionate about. And I'm going to guess that that's going to become your major. And then that's going to lead you to your first job and maybe your career. You're just not sure.
Yeah.
But keep your eyes open for what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And some of the students looked at me like, yeah, that makes sense. And others would look at me like, what did you say? So some of them we have to say it many times. And that's why you have this thing called first-year experience, where you get them kind of understanding process and go to class, ask for help. Here's the resource centers. But keep your eyes open, because you think you came here for this degree. And all of a sudden I took this class, and now that degree is not, I'm not interested in that at all.
Yep.
But that's the process. Did you plan on being into media and broadcasting? Maybe not.
Nope. I didn't plan on that. Actually, I debated going for communication after my bachelor's degree.
I know. My dad was in marketing and sales, and he wanted me to go into business, more traditional jobs. And he said, what are you going to do with this degree in communication? I said, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And finally, he looked up one day, and I was a dean with a PhD and tenured faculty member. He said,
wow,
that seems to have worked out. Yeah.
Sure did.
It wasn't immediate, but it was a process.
Yeah. Wonderful. Oh my goodness. I'm loving this conversation, by the way. This is really cool. And so we talk a great deal about how the university kind of prepare the student for the job market, right?
Yeah.
Because this is in some ways, the ultimate goal is to prepare them with a skill of some sort that they can go out there and make a life for themselves, or take on a position that they can access. So when it comes to that, what are some of the career services that are available to students to help them in that prospect?
So we have a great career services office. They're checking with the students, and we talk to them about career services even in the freshman year experience class. That this is some place that you should check with, because they can also help you get an internship.
Yeah.
So while you're in college, get an internship, maybe in summer, or maybe it's part-time during the year, and then you get a free look into, well, what really happens in that industry. And if you like it, and then, well, what would my role maybe be?
Yeah.
And what am I interested in? If you're working in media, there's media sales. Well, then there's the reporting. And then there's the business side. There's several dimensions of each industry. So they have to kind of find their way. So career service is really critical. So the things that we're talking to students about, and I'm talking to industry about all the time, is what knowledge do you need students to have? Yeah. What skills do they need?
Yes.
And then what do they need in terms of experiences? So the knowledge may be derived from several different disciplines. The skills, well, how do you apply that? So you could be a psychology major, but the reality is psychology majors all take statistics, and they understand how to do surveys and how to interview people. And also, well, wait a minute, you have a psych degree, and I just hired you as a marketing intern. Well, yeah, because you know how to survey people, you know how to take the data, figure out what are the trends, and write a report, and then present it and say, this is your consumer, and you might want to position yourself this way in their eyes because your sales are going to go up.
There you go.
That's psychology.
Yes.
So most people wouldn't think of hiring a psychologist. They're like, why would I hire a psych person in marketing? Well, they know people, and that's your consumer.
Yes.
So you got to get the students to see the knowledge I got in different disciplines, because they might get a minor in business as well, or they might major in business and minor in psychology. It doesn't really matter, but what's the knowledge and what's the skills and what abilities do they have? And they get those abilities by doing things like internships, work experience, maybe just part-time work anywhere. They're learning things like how to show up on time.
Yeah.
That's kind of an important skill. How to do what you're asked to do. That's called being a good employee and positioning yourself for success. So all these things are interwoven, and it's not directly in the classroom. but it's part of that human development experience. That's the business we're in. We're in the human development business.
I love it. I love it. I love that. In the human development business. Right. Wow. Wow. So, man, I have so many follow-up questions. I think I because
That's okay.
this is so good. This is so good. Um, I when I think of professional lunch and how I want to make it available to young professionals who are studied out, who are launching their careers, one thing we want to focus on is professional development, improve their employability, right? When it comes to their leadership, their communication skills, and so on and so forth. Right. So, you make a great point. Sometimes a psychology major may not know that these opportunities they are available for them also, right? Being working as an intern in marketing, and so that was a very good point you make here. And that's when I'm listening to this podcast again, I will focus on that because I need to help them understand that, especially for liberal arts majors. Sometimes they struggle to find a career path simply because it's not as defined as you would like it to be, right?
Right.
So that's a very good point. I just wanted to mention that.
So, and nothing against areas of study that have more of a professional focus.
Yes.
So, real easy one to use as an example is accounting. So you take accounting and you go through the curriculum, and there's this course called intermediate accounting. And it's basically the litmus test. Are you an accountant or not?
Yeah.
You don't do well in intermediate accounting, you're probably changing majors. Just saying. So you get through that, and then, okay, now I get my accounting degree. I get my certification as a CPA. Great. But that doesn't mean that defines you completely. So there's this, they used to call them the soft skills. I really don't like that. I prefer that we call them the power skills.
Yeah.
Because you take a really good accounting student that doesn't have a well-developed personality and doesn't work well with others in groups and can't relate well with their clients, well, that person's going to struggle in that career. The power skill is somebody who has really good interpersonal skills, somebody that can look at information or data and articulate an idea of how we might move forward, that will work well with others to facilitate those conversations. Those are power skills.
Wow.
So we need to think about everything that you get in higher education. The liberal arts teaches you how to think and read and write, critically analyze things, articulate your opinion, give a rationale why you believe what you believe. Those are power skills that come directly out of the liberal arts. So the liberal arts are the core of learning, and then it's like a pinwheel. You could stay in the liberal arts, you can go into the social sciences, you can go into the humanities, you can go into the arts, you can go into a professional area like accounting or management or finance. It's a pinwheel. So you figure out what you want to do, the thing that interests you, but the nucleus is the liberal arts of learning. So you know about the world, you know about history, you know about economics, you know about philosophy, the arts, and all of a sudden people can have a conversation with you.
Yes.
And maybe you don't know all the answers, but you know the questions to ask, and then you look at them and say, now I understand. Thank you for clarifying that for me. So you're constantly building this knowledge set, but it's not just vocationally directed. It's about the world.
Wow.
And if you have that worldview and those liberal arts, that good learning curriculum, which we have a great one at Moorhead, faculty do a phenomenal job with that. Then somebody can walk up to you and talk to you at lunch and say, so what do you think about, and you'll probably be able to pull the question apart and put it back together, ask a few questions, and then come up with an opinion.
Yeah.
And it's probably a pretty informed opinion or something that's defensible.
Yeah.
That's a skill. That's a life skill. And I've met some just phenomenally intelligent people, but they couldn't do that. And they are less likely to advance in their career because they are not as articulate as they need to be. They don't build relationships with people in the workplace, and they don't have all the parts put together.
Wow. Man, this is powerful. Power skill. I'm gonna steal that term.
You do. Spread the word. They're power skills.
I'm gonna take that term. Quite frankly. Oh man, this is. Man, I love doing this, simply because of this conversation. It's really refreshing to have this kind of conversation because um, you get to learn. I get to learn something new
Hmm.
every time,
Yeah,
every time. So, uh, another area that I value on campus is clubs and organization, right? What support is available for student organization in clubs at MSU?
sure. Uh, what we do at Moorhead is pretty traditional. There, in the student affairs side, there's a group of people that help organize the clubs and then support them as the club needs support. So traditionally what happens is, let's say you and I had an idea to have the origami club.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know the first thing about origami. I don't even know where that came from.
Yeah.
But so we get together a group of people. Are you interested? Are you interested? And if you get a critical mass, then you can apply to be a recognized club. So now you're a recognized club, and that means that when they take student fee money, you could have some small, modest amount of funding to do like a project or an event
Yeah.
to then increase the viability of your club.
Mm-hmm.
So then the club can grow. But the process is, let's recognize you as a club, and the club would have kind of a charter or an objective, and what do you want to do that's going to contribute to the campus, to learning, to the aesthetics, to all that I was just talking about.
Yeah.
So clubs and organizations are important. The clubs that were popular 20, 30 years ago probably are not popular at all.
Yeah.
It's because the student evolves, technology's evolved, our culture's evolved. So things that students are involved with now probably didn't exist.
Yeah.
Some of them do.
Yeah.
There's constants. There's clubs like in the fine arts, media,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Wow.
You just don't know. There's, like I'd mentioned earlier, rugby. It's a club, and they play, and they actually play other universities, and they travel, and they have a budget, and they do fundraisers. So there's a lot of structure.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's the head of the students that runs the rugby club, and they're like, today we're going to go out and wash cars to make money,
Mm-hmm.
so we can afford to go on our trip next weekend. Because when you're on a trip, you got to buy gas and eat pizza.
Yeah.
So that's the complete college life, right?
Yes. So you mentioned, oh man, this is a perfect segment into my next question. So you mentioned technology, so how does the university stay current with educational innovations when it comes to technology and all that?
That's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
The use of technology today on campus is exponentially higher.
Yeah.
So we're constantly chasing that rainbow. How do we provide sufficient technology? So the nucleus of technology on campus is learning and learning support. So do we have the technology in the classrooms?
Mm-hmm.
Do we have the technology and accessibility to the internet so students can study and get their information and everything they need to do? If students are going to do a work session, but they're all somewhere else, maybe they're doing a Zoom
Mm-hmm.
or they're doing a Teams meeting.
Yeah.
Well, those are things that didn't exist 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Now you have to constantly rebuild this infrastructure to support the needs of the students and the faculty and the staff to make sure that we can all leverage that technology. So it's constant.
Yeah.
We're always asking, well, what do they need? What do they need? At different points in time, just like every university, you'll say, do we have enough? So one of the realities that I've seen probably over the last 20 years is the amount of accessibility to the internet is just not enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in a meeting this spring talking to students, and I had them raise their hands about the different types of technology that they personally used. Well, each one of them had a cell phone. Each one of them had a laptop. Each one of them had some sort of smartphone. Some of them had an Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them had something equivalent to an Alexa. And the list went on. On average, each student had 5 devices that they had on all the time.
Wow.
Think about
That's a lot.
it. It is. Now we're in an office space, and in a contiguous space like a residence hall, you have to have an infrastructure with all the nodes to give accessibility. You have to have this network. Well, the network bandwidth capability is never enough. because they're all bringing 5 devices.
Yeah.
You know, and I sat and I explained this to students. They said, I never thought of it that way. And we had a glitch, and we asked them to turn all their stuff off, and some of them did, and some of them didn't. And then we asked them again, and they're like, okay. Well, the first thing that came on when all the bandwidth was restored, the first person that got on was with an Xbox. Well, it may be for instructional purposes, but I'm going to guess it isn't. And that's okay. It's part of recreation.
Yep.
But we're constantly trying to figure out what's enough, what software do we need, where's the accessibility points, what do they need to support their learning, and just their access to information. So that's something we're constantly upping the bar on ourselves to make sure we're good on our promise for accessibility to information.
Wow, wonderful. I love it. So now we have touched about student success on the part of the university, everything that the university is doing to really improve student success. But on this part of the students, so this is a question I mentioned earlier, how can students make the most out of everything that the college is doing to support them, right?
Right.
What do you think?
Well, I think, for example, this morning when I was talking to our orientation students, is get active, get involved. So if you look at, say, the residence halls, each residence hall has several students that are residence hall directors. And part of their job is to make sure that students don't sit in their room alone.
Wow.
Just get them out of their room. Because if you get in there, you might be busy, but you might not be engaging socially, and you're missing that social development.
Yes.
So we constantly have to be doing that, getting students to just get involved. And so in the residence halls, they'll create events, like a Friday night event or some event around a sporting event or whatever. Or let's go to the play, or let's go to, to see.
Concert.
Yeah, the concert. Just go.
Yeah.
Just get out of your room. Don't spend all your time in this isolation bubble.
Yeah.
So everybody's trying to do that. Now the key is we have to constantly be asking the students, what are they interested in? It's almost like a market research. So if we did this, would you come? Well, hopefully they're truthful, which they usually are. But sometimes there might be too many things, and then you don't get enough people at each event.
Yeah.
So that's a constant challenge that we have is how many events do you have concurrently, and then which events do you have concurrently to make sure that it's sufficiently subscribed to. That you don't have an event where you hire somebody to come in and give a lecture and 2 students show up.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, dang it.
Yep.
That's not good. That's not a good use of our resources. So let's figure that out. But that's a part of the student affairs people and the faculty and the staff. What are they interested in? Let's try and create those events. But then the other problem is students are changing. Every 3 to 5 years, the student interests kind of evolve. So if you did what you did 7 years ago, you're probably not going to have anybody at your events.
Yep.
So we have to constantly be testing the market and seeking information about what their interests are so we can be that group that provides things that they're interested in engaging in.
Wonderful, man. The show's supposed to be about your journey also, and also about the topic. So I think we're going to kind of switch back, to your journey. You mentioned you work at a bank. You've been in academia only, or have you worked in the business world?
I've been in academia for my career.
Okay.
I've done some consulting over the years with agencies, like leadership development for different places.
Okay.
Mostly, though, in higher ed, and that was accidental. So my journey was, I was working for the bank, and I got to know the regional vice president of a big bank called Bank of America, big international bank.
Yeah.
And he said, I think you should go into our management training program. And so we'll send you the training program, and you come back, and you can work with me and my staff, and we'll find a place for you. He goes, I think you're going to have a banking career. So that was my plan. And my plan was then I was going to go to school at night and get a master's in organization behavior. So I had a whole plan. I was all ready.
Yeah.
Well, then my undergraduate advisor said, you need to go to graduate school full time. I said, well, who can afford that? He said, well, we can get you a graduate assistantship. And I said, what's that? Turns out the graduate assistantship, I paid $45 a semester.
Wow. Yep.
That worked. And then they paid me, $300 a month
Yeah.
to teach.
Yeah.
Well, my rent was $360.
Hey.
So that was not good math. But so I did other things. I do night work for the department, weekends, and whatever projects I needed. So I finished my master's, and there was a recession because my plan was with my master's to go into training and development. Because I really kind of liked the whole thought of helping people be successful. Little did I know that the recession was going to show up, and then I said, well, maybe I'll stay on and get my doctorate, and then I can go in and be a consultant in training and development, organizational development. But then I got the bug, and I really like teaching. So that's how I ended up as a faculty member. Did that, promoted, tenured, as department chair, and then I went to work for the provost on her staff. And then I realized, I think I want to just really jump all in and become an administrator. The secret goal that I only shared with like my wife and my brother was that I wanted to be a university president.
Oh, wow.
So this is a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I had to really go on this journey. So I was a graduate dean in Kansas, and then I went to Pennsylvania as a college dean, and then I went to a university in Niagara Falls, New York, as a provost, and then a president at Northern State University in South Dakota, and then did an interim spot with Cal Poly Humboldt as the chief of staff for the university while I was looking for my next presidency. And was really fortunate to see that when Minnesota State's Moorhead's job opened up, I immediately jumped out of my chair and said, that's the one.
That's the one.
Yeah, because of the region, the people, the state of Minnesota really supports higher education and social structures, and it just across the board resonated with me. Yeah. So every interview, because it's a series, you have to go through every one. I was just praying loudly, please, Lord, this has to be the one.
Yeah.
Because it's just a good place.
Yes.
And a good spirit about it. And all their values really resonated with everything I've shared with you today.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So it's been a journey.
So, wow, man, this is really good. So we get, this is another question that I always ask the guests is, what do you love most about your job, and what is the most challenging?
For me, it's everything I've talked about with students. When I can see a student kind of start to finish. So I just saw one set of graduates, but I wasn't here when they got here. So each year it's going to become more rich for me because I'll have seen them when they started. Or maybe I've seen them in their second or third year, and I'll see their growth and development, and then I'm shaking their hand, and they got a degree. Yeah, that is magic. What happens is very little me directly. It's our faculty and our staff and our coaches and everybody and the people that help give them internships, and it's a whole community. I call it the learning community. Yeah, has helped shape this person to be ready to launch. Wow! So that's the magic. I love that. I've gotten to know some students and met with them regularly, and given them some insights of things to think about. There's a couple of them that I've worked with this past year that came up to me and said, "Thank you. That was very helpful. You put things into perspective that I never thought about." Well, that's all our jobs. Yes. So I love that. Wonderful. The reality of higher ed today, it is a business, and our consumer is our student, and there's just at times you don't think there's ever enough of them. So the competition is really fierce. Yeah. And sometimes you just don't win that student over. Yep. And you're not sure why. So we're constantly reframing the institution as a great place to come study, very supportive. It will help you get to that first step in your professional lives and your careers. So we're constantly repositioning. We're rebranding the university right now to be much more loud and proud of who we are and how good we are. Yes. But that's a lot of effort. It's easier to just let things ride along and casually happen almost by accident. You can't do that in higher education today. It's just as fierce a competition as any industry out there. So you have to really work on that. And every day, that's what we do. Yeah. Like I always say, how do we be even better? Well, it's going to take some change. and thoughtful change, and then you have to always assess how well did that change work, and sometimes they don't. You say, well, let's not do that again, and then keep evolving as an institution. Keep telling the story, because like I led off with earlier, we are a regional partner, and people need to not just see us as an institution, we're a partner.
Yeah.
And we're a partner that delivers, and sometimes we have to come to the region and say, I need your help with this. And that's okay.
Yeah.
As long as it's kind of a symbiotic relationship, we help them with interns. We help them graduating students. I might need some help with a project that I just can't get across the finish line. And if they can help,
Yep.
then that'll help both of us.
Yes. So win-win.
Yeah, exactly.
Wonderful. Oh my goodness. President Downs, I love this episode of Professional Lunch. I am learning a lot here today, and I'm enjoying the conversation. And I know that the students who listen to this will get a lot of it out of it too. But we get to the point where we always ask the guests for advice for young professionals who are launching their careers. What advice would you give?
Mm-hmm. Really keep your eyes open and ask questions, and then try and figure out what really gives you that passion, that drive. Because in my mind, I get up and I like going to work.
Yeah.
I don't want to retire. Why would I do that? I like working. Now, every day is not easy, but find your passion. Mm-hmm. Find what really just sparks inside of you and says, oh my gosh, I love that. Okay. So now we got kind of a zip code where you see yourself. Mm-hmm. And then start to figure out, well, what do I need to do in terms of my knowledge, skills, and abilities to be ready to be a part of that sphere?
Yeah.
And then take it even one step further. Find people in that profession and go talk to them.
Yes.
And say, so how did you get here? And what have you learned are lessons, like career lessons and life lessons, that helped you evolve into the person you are?
Yes.
I mean, people love to tell their story.
Yes.
So go ask them.
Yes. They'll be happy to tell you.
Yeah. I mean, I've done that. When I was a graduate student, I went into the department chair who was world renowned. And I said, so this is when I was deciding, do I go for my doctorate or not?
Yeah.
I'm on this fence. And I said, so I really like teaching. Mm-hmm. I really love the whole premise of you're constantly learning. It really invigorates me.
Yep.
I said, so if I want to go in and I want to get a doctorate, what do I need to do to prepare myself to be a professional member of a faculty? And he gave me some advice that was just invaluable.
Yes.
And I did it, and I got a job right away out of graduate school.
Wow.
And my pathway to tenure was not difficult because I followed his advice. Mm-hmm. So 5 years later, I'm a successful professional, and then 7 years later, I have tenure.
Wow.
And I went to him one day at a conference, and I said, the advice you gave me set me on the path to success.
Wow.
I cannot thank you enough.
Wonderful.
And he smiled, and he goes, well, I'm glad somebody was listening. I mean, he was a very funny guy, sarcastic. But, so just ask people, how did you get here? What might I do? One of the things he said every paper that you write for a graduate seminar, presented at a conference.
Wow.
So I think almost every class that I took that final paper and I submitted to a conference.
Wow.
And almost every one of them, it was accepted.
Wow.
So when I came on the job market, I had 20 presentations at conferences. Mm-hmm. And people were like, your resume looks like a faculty member. We're not going to have to ask you to do this because you've been doing it your whole graduate school experience.
Wow.
I said yes, and that's advice I got, and apparently it's working.
Wonderful.
So it's just little things like that. Because you already had to write the paper.
Yep. You might as well use it.
Might as well format it so you can just take it, put a stamp on it back in that day, put it in an envelope, send it off.
Yeah.
And my colleagues in graduate school were just dumbstruck. They said, why do you do this? It's all this extra work. I said, well, I think it's going to help.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it did.
It did.
Yes.
It was, so go ask people.
Yeah. Yeah.
They love to talk about themselves, and and you'll learn these little pearls of wisdom
Mm-hmm.
that'll put you down a path that you had never even anticipated.
Wow, wow, wow. Wonderful. Man, usually our segment, our episode, a little shorter than that, but today, I hope that's okay with you.
Yeah, we're good.
So, we get into the last few minutes of the show. Professional lunch will eventually be uh, a mentoring and learning platform for young professionals.
Mhm.
So this is our major goal. This is with professional lunch. And so when I meet with professionals, I ask them, did they have a mentor, and what did they see? How would they describe mentoring relationship, and why is it important
Oh,
in the professional
oh, it
development?
is. There's two terms. There's coaches and there's mentors.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you go to work for NBC in New York,
Mm-hmm.
and they assign you a mentor. Well, it may or may not work out.
Mm-hmm.
What I usually think of it, I call them coaches,
Okay.
because it's a professional relationship that you're supposed to learn from them how to do this job, because maybe you're going to be their replacement in 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
So you're supposed to shadow them, learn from them, observe them, kind of emulate their behavior, make it your own, but still you're in this learning shadow, and we're bringing you up to speed so you're a successor.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a coach. A mentor, and I actually did some research on this. I was going to write my doctoral dissertation on mentoring.
Wow.
And the mentor is different because there's a real connection, a personal connection with that person. Like somebody that could be even become a best friend, or somebody that you call for a real confidential question.
Yeah.
That's a mentor. So there's coaching, which is much more professional and, kind of lockstep.
Technical.
Maybe technical,
Mm-hmm.
but the mentoring is it's a relationship. So, my mentor for my doctoral program was my advisor, and we were friends. I mean, we went and lifted weights in the morning.
Yeah.
And then I went home and took a shower, and then I was his graduate assistant when he taught his classes. So I was in a different role.
Yeah.
And, I could call him today, and he'd say, well, what are you doing? We'd tease each other back and forth because we know each other personally.
Yes.
It's that next level.
Mm-hmm.
So the coaching, I think, is something that you ask for. And if you really have that special relationship, it could evolve into a mentorship.
Yes.
For me, one of the misnomers is you can assign somebody to be a mentor,
Mm-hmm.
because you may just end up with somebody as a coach because they never really resonated with each other and never reached that mentorship relationship.
Wonderful.
So it's a subtlety,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's something that just happens naturally.
Yeah.
I still have mentors.
Wow.
I have one that was when I was a faculty member. We became really good friends, and he was my mentor to teach me some of the subtleties of navigating and becoming a dean and then beyond.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up being a president of a university, and I was a dean, and then I've been a president of a university twice.
Yeah.
But we were friends. I'd go over to his house for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
We wrote a book together. We're really close.
Mm-hmm.
So I could call him today, and it was like, oh my gosh, how are you doing? It's like an old friend
Yeah. Yeah.
versus someone that's in a professional exchange, kind of a transaction.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Man, I tell you, everything you share with me today is invaluable. And I'm really glad to have you on the show. We get into the last minute. This episode, really, this is one of the best that I've had so far doing this after 115 episodes. So it's really, I have quite a few
thank you.
to look through here. So this is the last minute of the show. Last few words for the professional lunch audience.
Well, believe in yourself.
Yes.
Challenge yourself. Ask for help.
Ooh, I love this one.
Yeah,
Ask for
because
help.
because I've met very few people that know it all or can do it all.
Mm-hmm.
So you need help, and that's why I believe in working as teams, because each person has a skill set that adds to the group and the group dynamic, and you're going to do better collectively.
Wonderful. President Downs, thank you so much for being on Professional Lunch today. When I say it's a pleasure to have you, it's really a pleasure to have you on Professional Lunch and share with me. This conversation really hit home. We talk about a variety of things here, but I think I'm gonna have to listen to this over and over again, and so that they can sink in because I really love the conversation.
Great.
Thank you so
Well, it was
much.
great to be on the show. Thank you for the invitation.
No problem. Thank you so much. Now, Professional Lunch is a nonprofit organization, and so we rely on friends, guests, other organization, and partners to keep having those conversations and keep bringing wonderful guests that like Dr. Timothy Tim Downs here today. And so we rely on you. Reach out to me and see how you can help, and we'll be happy that you offer to help. Now, if you have not followed Professional Lunch, I invite you to do so because we have wonderful conversations coming every week to you so that you can enjoy them. Now, this is the part that I tell you it's up to you to make today a great day. Have a great day. President Downs.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. Okay, me.
All right.